Hey, my beautiful bitches, it's me, Fiona St. James, and welcome to another episode of Fiona's Coffee Talks. And as always, I like to start off every day with a fresh, hot, black cup of coffee. Hold the cream! I'd love to. And of course, I think of my favorite quote of the century by Oscar Wilde, which says, "Life is too important to be taken seriously, so lighten up, folks." So today's topic is, drumroll please, travel time part 3. Yay! Okay, so picture it. 1994, summer of 1994, I had never been to Europe and it was always my dream to go. And at that time, I had been working at Bloomingdale's, been doing retail for a couple of years. And you know, the one thing about that is when you work in retail, you put yourself out there and you end up meeting people. So I met someone like 6 months before who was living in London that New Year's Eve. Accidentally left his watch on my nightstand. You can't make the shit up. But anyway, he invited me to go out there. So that summer, you know, I had been planning it for months, and then it seemed like as I was getting closer to going there and planning it all, then I was meeting other people. Then I met someone else who lived in the Netherlands, and he was like, "Oh, come stay with me." So, long story short, I ended up going to Europe for 4 weeks, for 1 month. So I started off seeing my friend Simon. That's the friend in England. I was there for about 10 days. And, we, of course, like fooled around when I first got there, but then we just immediately became really wonderful friends. And he was a gracious host. And London was incredible. Met lots of nice people, went out to eat a lot and saw the different sites. Bar-wise, my favorite one was one called the London Apprentice. Oh my God, I was there all the time. One thing I do remember is that they don't free pour. So like when you go to get a drink, they measure the shot. And I was like, huh? And I was like, y'all bitches do triples? Cause I'm from the Bronx. And at that time I was like drinking, not heavily, but who don't drink, at least who didn't back then. So, and that was also the year that I discovered Absolutely Fabulous. It had not made it to the States yet. This is 1994. And I remember my friend Neil, hey Neil, uh, he ended up introducing it to me. And then I remember when I came back, then all of a sudden, months later, it was hitting on Comedy Central. So anyway, I was there for about 7, 10 days. And then Simon and I, we took a trip to Mykonos. We went there for a week. And that was incredible. I mean, apart from the fact that like just going to the beaches, the two main ones were Paradise, and then Super Paradise was like the gay one. And it was kind of crazy because back then, like, there was no real way of getting there. Like, you'd have to like get on this rinky dink bus and like go as far as you can go, then get on a boat. And then like the boat would literally like not, it wasn't even a dock that they would get like as close to the sand as possible and be like, jump off. And you're like, what? You know, so, but I went there every day and the food was great and I met all these wonderful people and, the sights were great. And I remember also there was this church, like a cathedral or something where you would, where guys would like go behind and there were all of these rocks and, honey, you got rocks behind the church in a place like Mykonos with a bunch of gay guys. What do you think is going to happen? So it was like a cruising area. It was like the equivalent of going to the Rambles in the good old days. So you'd go there and people would like fuck around and do whatever. Oh, it was heaven. So we were there for like 7 days. Then we came back to London. No. Then I actually he went back to London. I went from there. I had a layover somewhere and then I went to the Netherlands, specifically Amsterdam. And I was there for 10 days. And that's where I had met this other guy, Eric, who was like, oh, you could come stay with me. But between the time that we had met and the time that I got there, he actually got involved with someone, and who was living with him, had a boyfriend. But they were totally cool and they let me stay with them. So there was no romantic involvement there. But, gave me my keys. And then the boyfriend he was around my age and Eric was older. So the boyfriend, I can't even remember his name. He ended up showing me around. And, you know, the way I am, like back then, I would maybe like stay with people if I traveled anywhere. That's really not my jam, though. My thing is, if I'm going somewhere, if I can't afford to stay in a hotel, I ain't gonna go. I don't like to impose on people. Plus, because let's keep it real, honey, I like having my fun. And then if you're staying with people, then suddenly you got to be concerned with, like, you know, being with them every minute. And honey, that's just not me. So I did meet this guy named Case. Uh, the Case call, that's a private joke for two of my dear friends. Don't ask. But anyway, he was this beautiful doctor. No, he was a dentist. That's what it was. And like, I would be the whole 10 days that I was there, we were together. So we do like every other day. We get to, like, I'd be with him one night, leave the next day, and then not see each other that day, and then see each other the next day. So in between, honey, you know, this girl was having her fun elsewhere. But I was really kind of digging him, and I was, you know, rather sad to see him to leave and not be with him. We even kept in touch for a little bit afterwards, and I was supposed to go see him. That all fell apart. Uh, but the Amsterdam was great too. What was so wonderful about that city is it was the only time, it was the first time ever that I had kind of felt like if I were to ever leave the States, this is where I would want to live, because it had such character. Everywhere you went, there was a canal. And like at that time, you know, you would go to these pot stores, and at that time I was smoking regularly. And so like it was totally legal to do it. So you would go to these coffee shops, and like they would have like the menu, you order what you want, you sit there, you smoke. They even had tables with like rolling paper so you could roll your shit and smoke right there. Like back then, they arrested you if you didn't smoke weed. Just saying. And then it was such a beautiful city where like crime was so low that even the cops were like these hot men in shorts on bicycles. Now, think about it. If they on a bike and there's some crime happening, you know, that's going to be a little harder to like get to it. But that just goes to show you how low their crime rate was. So I was there for 10 days. The other footnote to that in terms of the weed, it's funny, but when you, like, I'd be out in the bars or wherever, and then you would ask someone, a local, oh, do you smoke weed? Oh, no. But then the second you lit the joint up, oh, I'll take a hit. So it's not that they don't smoke weed. It's that they're cheap bitches that don't want to spend their own money on weed, but they'll smoke yours in a heartbeat. Trust me on that. So anyway, I was there for 10 days, and then I went back to London, stayed with Simon again. Then I was in London for like 5 days. And then what was great was when I was in Mykonos, I met all these other guys that lived in London. So then when I got back to London for those last 5 days, you know, me being the social butterfly that I am, I ended up like, we ended up all going to dinner together, and I created this cute little group. It was like 8 of us, and it was quite wonderful. That was the first time I went to Europe, and I knew I wanted specifically like London. I knew I wanted Amsterdam, and then Mykonos was just kind of thrown in there. So it's quite wonderful. Actually, you can read about it, little self-promotion here, in my self-published memoirs, The Life and Crimes of Fiona St. James. That's through pages 90, starting pages 98 through whenever, chapter 4. And actually, the cover of my book, you can see that picture there. That was the 6 years that I was on Oz. That was my mugshot. Girl, she played a criminal for 6 years. Anywho, but you could get this at FionaSt.James.com. No period after the T, and the Saint is just ST. So a little promo there. But yeah, it was wonderful. And then I've been to Europe a few times since. You'll hear about that later on. But that was my first European summer vacation. And the total time that I was there was exactly 1 month. And talk about like shelter shock when I came back. I spoke about this in the last video, I think, where like you love when you're away, but then it's almost like when you get back home, you're like, home sweet home. But then at the same time, you're like, what the hell? I was just having fun, and now I'm back to the daily grind of it all. Ugh, who knew? All right, guys. So thumbs up. Subscribe if you have not. I'm sure you have. And I, as always, am happy that you're here with me. I love doing these videos, and I love doing it with you guys. Oh, and check out a video that I did with Matt Cullen. He has a YouTube channel as well. That just hit last Sunday, exactly a week ago. Today is Sunday, February something. 17th, 18th? 18th, I think. And this will post next Friday, but my video with Matt just hit last Sunday. So, all right, guys. Thanks so much. See you soon. Love you.